Close your eyes and let's drift into one of science's biggest unsolved mysteries: why you sleep at all. You're lying there now, still and warm, letting your thoughts begin to scatter like windblown leaves. But here's the strange part. No one really knows why you're doing this. I mean, sleep is one of the most essential functions of life. Every creature that's ever crawled, flown, or blinked into existence seems to need it. But ask a scientist why it's truly necessary, and you'll get a nervous laugh, a shrug, and probably a bunch of complex diagrams that somehow don't answer the actual question. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tell me your location and local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Let's imagine you're a cave-dwelling human 40,000 years ago. You've just finished gnawing on some roasted mammoth, your feet are dirty, and your only entertainment is staring at firelight bouncing off stone. Suddenly, your eyelids start drooping. Why? You're not sick. There's no tiger nearby, no trauma, no boredom, because your brain hasn't invented TikTok yet. And yet, sleep pulls at you like a tide. Some say it's for restoring the body, but that's not quite it. Your body rests just fine when you sit still. Others say it's for memory consolidation. Okay, that sounds smart. Your brain needs to organize the day's experiences, shuffle files, delete spam, and highlight the juicy bits. But wait, even newborn babies sleep before they've done much to remember. And octopuses, with their alien brains, dream in color. What exactly are they filing away? Here's where it gets weirder. Sleep comes in cycles, slow waves, rapid eye movement, stages that flicker like light shows across your cortex. During REM sleep, your brain lights up almost as much as it does when you're awake. So you're unconscious but lit up like a Christmas tree. Sounds productive and suspicious. In fact, during REM, your brain paralyzes your muscles. It's called REM atonia, and it keeps you from acting out your dreams. Otherwise, you'd karate kick your lamp while dreaming you're saving a dolphin from an evil jellyfish warlord. Yes, that's an actual dream someone reported. No, science can't explain that either. Dreams, while we're on the subject, are still basically unexplained. Theories abound. Maybe dreams are memory scrubbing, or emotional rehearsals, or your brain's way of generating creative problem-solving scenarios. Or maybe, just maybe, they're random neurons partying after dark. No one knows. That's the theme of tonight, remember? Let's not forget sleep disorders. Ever heard of fatal familial insomnia? It's a rare condition where people lose the ability to sleep entirely and die within months. Their bodies fall apart without rest. But the real question is, why is sleep so critical that missing it literally erases your existence? Imagine a spaceship. If you power it down, that's one thing. But if it needs to power down to survive, suddenly you're looking at a very specific kind of engine. An engine that breaks unless it rests. But wouldn't evolution have selected for creatures that could stay alert 24/7? After all, nighttime is dangerous. Yet evolution seems to have favored sleep. There's a clue in how widespread it is. Fruit flies sleep, jellyfish sleep, even tiny worms without a brain exhibit sleep-like cycles. That suggests sleep is ancient, older than memory, older than complex behavior. It's not an add-on, it's a core feature, a reset button baked into the hardware of life. But still, why? Now drift a little deeper. Think about what happens as you fall asleep. You lose awareness of your body. Your sense of time smears like wet ink, and your ego, that busy little announcer in your mind, goes silent, replaced by dream logic and emotional currents. You could argue that sleep is your brain's way of reconnecting with something beneath thought, something raw and biological. There's a poetic theory, totally unproven, but strangely comforting, that sleep is your brain's way of forgetting. Each night, you let go of the sharp edges, of grief, of fear, of the endless pings of consciousness. You soften, dissolve, return to zero. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe we sleep not to remember, but to forget, to be reborn. Though of course, science wouldn't say it like that. Science would say, the function of sleep is not fully understood and remains an open area of inquiry, which is a fancy way of saying, no idea. So as you lie here, limbs slowly melting into the bed, eyelids heavier than reason, just know, you're participating in one of the greatest mysteries of existence, a daily ritual without a known purpose, a cosmic shrug in the shape of a yawn. And hey, next time someone tells you sleep is just for rest, ask them why your brain paralyzes your body while it hallucinates in the dark. That'll end the small talk real quick. The birth of consciousness. Relax your mind. As we explore the strange light that flickers behind your eyes, the one no machine, no scan, no clever metaphor has ever fully captured. You're awake now. You're aware. You know that you're you. That's consciousness. But where did that you come from? Not your name, not your memories, you. The observer behind your thoughts. The strange presence that somehow watches itself thinking. And despite everything science has discovered, it still has no idea how that happens. See, your brain is made of cells, neurons, electrochemical pulses. If you look at it on a monitor, it's all spikes and waves, like a noisy city grid. But here's the puzzle. You can simulate a brain's activity, but you can't simulate the feeling of being that brain. What's it like to be you from the inside? That's the hard part. That's the hard problem of consciousness. One that's so hard, it has its own ominous nickname. You might think, isn't consciousness just the brain doing its job? But that's like saying a campfire is just sticks getting hot. True, but wildly incomplete. You can model the heat, chart the chemistry, but the experience of warmth, of flickering light on your face, of staring into the flames and feeling a memory stir, that's something else. Now imagine this. A robot walks into a room and says, I'm feeling sad. Do you believe it? Probably not. Because we know when we're faking. We sense when something's really alive. And that ability to feel, to be aware of being, might be the greatest unexplained glitch in all of science. Let's go microscopic for a second. Neurons don't know anything. They pass on signals. That's it. They fire when poked. But when you put billions of them together, suddenly there's you. That's like stacking enough light bulbs until one day they start writing poetry. Some scientists argue that consciousness might emerge from complexity. In other words, when a system becomes complicated enough, awareness just pops out, like mental popcorn. But that feels suspiciously like saying, put enough hamsters in a box and eventually one will invent jazz. Possible? Maybe. But it raises more questions than it answers. Let's try an analogy. Imagine your brain as a giant orchestra. Every region is an instrument. Some handle memory, others process language, and some just bang on the drums of attention. They play together, improvising constantly. But who's listening? Who's in the audience? Is there even an audience? Or is the music hearing itself? That's not just poetic nonsense, by the way. There are serious models, like integrated information theory, that suggest consciousness is information becoming aware of itself. The more interconnected your thoughts, the more real your consciousness feels. But even those models can't tell you why red looks the way it does, or why heartbreak actually hurts, or why you can hear your own inner monologue right now in your own voice. Let's get freaky for a moment. Think of split brain patients, people whose two brain hemispheres were surgically separated to treat seizures. Afterward, some of them showed signs of having two separate streams of consciousness inside one skull. One hand would reach for something, the other would slap it away. One side could speak, the other couldn't. Which raises a chilling question. How many yous live inside your brain right now? And if consciousness can split, can it multiply? Can it shrink, expand, blur? What happens under anesthesia when it flickers off? Where does it go? You've probably had moments during meditation, in a dream, or while staring at a ceiling fan, when your sense of self melted a little. You were still aware, but the boundary between you and everything else went soft around the edges. That too is consciousness, but less U-shaped. So if it can shift and change, what's the core? Even stranger, some animals appear self-aware. Dolphins, elephants, magpies. They recognize themselves in mirrors. They mourn. They plan. Does that mean they have the same flavor of consciousness as you? Or are there infinite varieties, like different songs on the same radio frequency? Let's bring it back to you, right now. You're lying still, listening, thinking about thinking. There's a certain quality to this moment, a blend of awareness and calm. You're not just having an experience. You're aware that you're having one. And science has no mechanism for that. No switch, no blueprint. If you dissected a brain, you'd find no you inside. Just tissue, wires, chemicals. It's like opening a book and expecting to find a tiny narrator living inside the spine. The story's there. The words are real. But the voice, that comes from nowhere and everywhere. And if you think this is confusing, imagine trying to design a machine that's conscious. Not just smart, conscious. Would it feel pain? Would it dream? Would it lie awake wondering why it exists? You've now drifted into the heart of a mystery that turns scientists into poets and philosophers into insomniacs. Because the question isn't just, what is consciousness? It's also, who's asking? The arrow of time. Turn down the lights, and let me tell you about something you feel every second, but may never truly understand. Time. It moves forward, right? Seconds tick, days pass. You get older, milk spoils. Cats ignore you. Time only flows in one direction. That's so obvious you don't even question it. But here's the kicker. Physics doesn't agree with you. The fundamental laws of nature, gravity, electromagnetism, quantum mechanics, they don't care which way time flows. Mathematically, everything works just as well backward. It's like watching a movie in reverse and realizing the plot still kind of makes sense, minus a few spilled drinks and awkward entrances. So then, why do you experience time like a river, always rushing downstream? Let's say you drop a glass. It shatters. Very dramatic. Now rewind that scene. The shards leap up, fuse perfectly, and float into your hand. That feels wrong, unnatural, but not physically impossible. The math still checks out. The only reason it seems off is because of something called entropy. the tendency of systems to move from order to disorder. And according to thermodynamics, entropy always increases. So maybe that's the answer, right? Time flows forward because entropy increases. Except, that's not a law of time. It's a statistical preference. Like how socks statistically prefer to disappear in the dryer. It doesn't explain why time feels like it's moving. Now here's where things start to tilt. Imagine the entire universe at its beginning. A smooth, hot soup of particles, low entropy. And now, billions of years later, it's a sprawling, chaotic mess of stars, planets, YouTube channels, and late-night burritos. Entropy exploded. But why did it start low in the first place? That question, the origin of entropy, is still unanswered. Scientists call it the past hypothesis, the idea that the universe simply began in an extremely ordered state, for reasons no one understands. That one weird starting condition is what gives your life a direction. No past hypothesis, no birthdays, no breakfast, no heartbreak, no bedtime stories like this one. But it gets weirder. In Einstein's theory of relativity, time is not some independent river. It's just another dimension, like height or width. In fact, time and space are fused into a thing called space-time. And when you move really fast, like near the speed of light, your experience of time slows down. You age slower. That's not sci-fi. That's science. GPS satellites actually have to correct for this effect, or your phone's map would tell you you're in the ocean. So now we've got a situation where time is flexible, reversible, and deeply woven into space itself. But you still feel it moving. Tick, tick, tick. Why? Some theorists think the arrow of time is just an illusion created by memory. In other words, you remember the past, not the future. So it feels like time is moving forward. But memory is a feature of your brain, not the universe. That's like saying time only moves forward because your iPhone calendar thinks it does. A little narcissistic, don't you think? Still awake? Good, because we're about to stretch your mind like pizza dough. There are equations, yes, real ones, that suggest the universe might have a mirror twin, a cosmos where time flows backward. Over there, suns would unburn, people would grow into babies, ice cream would jump into cones, and from their point of view, we're the ones doing everything backward. Each universe sees the other as weird. Imagine waving at yourself from across time's mirror, both of you convinced the other one is losing it. But don't panic. Or do. I can't tell you what time it is in the mirrorverse. Some quantum physicists even suggest that particles can influence the past based on choices made in the future. Yes, you heard that right. In certain experiments, what happens now seems to affect what happened before. It's called retrocausality, and it's as delightful as it is brain-breaking. Your bedtime routine might be influencing the Big Bang. Probably not, but wouldn't that be a plot twist? Now take a breath. Feel your chest rise and fall. That's time passing through you. Or maybe you're passing through it. Maybe you're like a needle on a record, tracing a groove carved by the universe itself. You can only move in one direction, not because of entropy or physics or memory, but because that's just how your needle was pressed into the vinyl of existence. So here you are, slowly drifting forward, one heartbeat at a time, toward a future you can't see and a past you can't touch. And science, smart, noble, endlessly curious science, is still stuck scratching its head, asking the same question you are. Why does it only go one way? Maybe, just maybe, time doesn't move at all. Maybe you are the one moving. moment by moment, across a fixed landscape of time that always was and always will be, like a traveler in a dream. And if that doesn't help you fall asleep, at least your dreams won't run in reverse. Probably. The hidden universe. As the world quiets down, imagine staring up at the night sky, feeling small beneath a dome of stars, each one a blazing sun trillions of miles away. Now, imagine this. Everything you see, every star, planet, galaxy, gas cloud, and noodle-fueled satellite, is only about 5% of what's actually out there. The rest, it's invisible, undetectable, mysterious, and we have absolutely no idea what it is. Welcome to dark matter. It doesn't shine, it doesn't reflect, and it doesn't interact with light in any way. You can't touch it, you can't see it, but it's there, everywhere. And that's not just a poetic guess. That's a scientific problem. One so big, it makes the universe feel like an unsolved crime scene. Let's start with how we found it. Picture a galaxy spinning, not metaphorically, actually spinning, like a cosmic frisbee. According to our trusty physics, the outer stars should orbit more slowly than the ones near the center. That's how gravity works. Closer equals a stronger pull. But that's not what we see. Outer stars are zipping around way too fast, like passengers flung off a merry-go-round that somehow refuses to fling. It's like watching a blender that should explode, but doesn't. So either our laws of gravity are wrong, awkward, or something invisible is holding everything together. That something is what we call dark matter, a name that basically means we don't know what the heck this is, but we're trying to sound confident. Here's what we do know. Dark matter has mass. It bends space. It can influence gravity, but it doesn't emit or absorb light. It doesn't clump into stars or form molecules or even notice your existence. It just floats, invisibly, silently, like the universe's background scaffolding. In fact, without dark matter, the cosmos wouldn't even make it past the opening credits. Galaxies would fly apart, planetary orbits wouldn't make sense, and the large-scale structure of the universe, those massive web-like filaments of matter stretching across billions of light years, would look like spilled alphabet soup instead of a cosmic sponge. And here's the spooky part. It's everywhere. Right now, as you lie in bed, trillions of dark matter particles might be drifting through you, harmless, ghost-like, like shy cosmic roommates who refuse to make eye contact. Scientists have built massive underground detectors, shielded by mountains, chilled to near absolute zero, just to try and catch a dark matter particle in the act. So far, crickets. Well, not literal crickets. That would at least be something. We've tried smashing atoms, tweaking equations, even inventing new particles with names like WIMPs and axions. Still, nothing bites. Dark matter continues to haunt our models, like a phantom X who left their gravity behind. And no, dark matter isn't just empty space. Space, at least, plays by the rules. Dark matter is a rule breaker. It's like a silent partner in a cosmic business deal who owns 85% of the shares but never shows up to meetings. Let's entertain a bold idea. What if dark matter isn't matter at all? Some theories suggest we're thinking about this all wrong. Maybe gravity doesn't work how we think it does on large scales. Maybe we need a whole new physics, one where matter isn't missing, just misunderstood. That's called modified Newtonian dynamics, or MOND, and it's about as controversial as pineapple on pizza. Tantalizing, divisive, delicious? You decide. But wait, it gets darker. There's also something called dark energy. And no, it's not the same as dark matter. Where dark matter holds things together, dark energy is tearing the universe apart. It's responsible for the accelerating expansion of space itself. So not only do we not know what most of the universe is, we don't even understand why it's speeding up as it stretches into the void. If you're keeping score at home, 5% known stuff, 27% mysterious invisible mass, and 68% a mysterious invisible force. Now here's a thought to fall asleep to. What if dark matter isn't just a passive thing? What if it has its own physics, its own forces, its own dark stars, dark galaxies, dark civilizations? You could be brushing elbows or photons with entire empires that exist in a spectrum your eyes can't see and your brain can't fathom. Okay, breathe. Probably not. But the truth is, we don't know. And that not knowing is humbling. Even beautiful. Because the next time you look at the stars, remember, you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg, the faint glow of a universe whose deepest truths remain just out of reach, hiding in plain sight. So lie back. Feel the invisible currents drifting through you, the quiet hum of mystery beneath your ribs. You're part of something vast, ancient, and wildly unfinished. And even if science can't explain what's out there, you're still floating peacefully in it. The puzzle of emotion. Tonight we drift into something far stranger than black holes or brain scans. Something warm, irrational, and deeply human. Emotion. You felt it all: joy, shame, fear, love, rage, longing. You've cried at movie trailers, gotten chills from music, felt butterflies over texts with bad grammar. But here's the weird part. Science still doesn't really understand why emotions exist. Not just how they happen, why. What's the evolutionary payoff for tearing up over a cartoon dog? Let's say you're watching a sad film. The music swells. Someone says goodbye. Your chest tightens. Tears form. Your heart physically aches. And yet, you're sitting still. Nothing is happening to you. Why does your body react like you're the one losing something? Sure, we can map emotions in the brain. Different regions light up. Chemicals get released. Dopamine, serotonin, cortisol. But that just tells us what emotion does, not why it feels. That's like studying a campfire and saying, it makes light and heat, while completely missing the comfort, the stories, the glow that makes people gather close. Some theories say emotions evolved as survival tools. Fear keeps you from petting tigers. Disgust stops you from licking mold. Love bonds you to others, so your species doesn't die off in a fit of individualism and poorly timed sarcasm. But even that doesn't cover the full story. Why do we get nostalgic? What survival value is there in missing a sandwich you ate in 2008? Or aesthetic chills, those goosebumps you get when a song hits just right. There's no tiger, no mate, no survival context at all, just beauty, music, a moment that vibrates in your chest like the universe is whispering something personal. Try explaining that with serotonin alone. And let's talk about crying. It's one of the strangest behaviors you have. You leak saline from your eyes when you're overwhelmed. No other animal does that emotionally. Sure, your cat might scream when upset, but she's not sobbing quietly to lo-fi hip-hop. That's your superpower. Then there's laughter, a bizarre sound you make when something surprises your brain in just the right way. Laughing until you cry is possibly the most delightful malfunction known to humanity. But science can't say exactly why humor evolved, especially when so much of it is based on timing, irony, and inside jokes about mitochondria. What about love? Not the mating kind, The real stuff. The quiet, enduring, irrational attachment to people who sometimes chew too loudly. What function does romantic heartbreak serve other than as fuel for poetry and overpriced desserts? Here's a fun one. Emotional contagion. You can catch someone's mood just by being near them. Ever walked into a room and felt the tension? That's your brain syncing up with invisible social cues. It's empathy, and it's powerful enough that even babies mimic the emotional tone of adults without knowing a single word. They'd come on. But empathy, like so much else here, doesn't fit neatly into evolutionary models. Why should your survival depend on feeling someone else's sadness? And yet, it's one of the most defining features of being human. Now imagine this, a world without emotion. You wake up, you eat, you sleep, you make decisions based on logic alone. No passion, no regret, no excitement when your favorite song starts playing in the supermarket. You'd be efficient, sure, but you'd also be empty, because emotion gives color to existence. It's not just the flavor, it's the meaning. It turns data into stories, choices into values, and strangers into people you'd drive across town for just to bring soup. Still, science keeps trying to reduce it all to chemicals, and chemicals matter. Your brain is a symphony of molecules, and when they're out of tune, everything changes. Depression isn't just sadness, it's emotional gravity. Anxiety isn't just fear, it's a full-body alarm that won't shut off even when there's no fire. But even with all our research, emotion resists clean answers. You can't dissect a tear and find the reason inside. You can't scan a brain and know what it feels like to long for someone, to forgive them, to let go. That part, the experience, remains mysterious. There are even theories that emotions don't arise from the brain at all, but from your body. That your gut, your heart, your posture, even your breathing help generate emotion. It's called embodied cognition, and it suggests that your mind is not just in your head, it's in your whole self. So tonight, as you lie here, maybe with a few emotions of your own floating around, some soft joy, a pinch of worry, maybe even a little hope, remember this: those feelings are uncharted. Science can graph them, name them, suppress them, and amplify them, but it still can't explain them. Emotion is the language your consciousness uses to make sense of a universe that doesn't talk back. It's your soul's weather, ever-changing, beautiful, sometimes inconvenient, but always, always real. The pull of gravity. Tonight, let's wander through something you've been experiencing since the moment you were born, and yet, science still can't tell you why it works. Gravity. Right now, as you lie in bed, it's pulling you gently down, into your mattress, your pillow, the earth itself. You don't feel it as a force, not exactly. You feel it as heaviness, a soft, constant anchor that keeps you from floating off like an escaped thought. But what is it really? Newton called it an attraction between masses. Drop an apple, it falls. But he never explained why it falls, just that it always does. Einstein came along centuries later with an elegant twist. Gravity isn't a force at all. It's a curve, a warp in space and time caused by mass. The bigger the mass, the deeper the dent. Imagine the universe as a giant trampoline. Put a bowling ball in the center, that's a star. Now roll a marble across the fabric. It spirals inward. That's gravity. Not a pull, but a response to the curve. Sounds cool, right? Elegant. Genius. But also, still not an explanation. Because Einstein told us how gravity behaves. not why mass bends space in the first place. Why does matter warp the universe? Why does space listen? Why do we fall? No one knows. You're probably used to gravity. You've lived under its rule forever. You jump, you come back down. You pour tea, it fills the cup. But scale up, and things get strange. Really strange. Take black holes. These aren't just collapsed stars. They're places where gravity becomes so intense, it breaks the math. Time stops. Light gets trapped. Causality goes fuzzy. At the center, a singularity. A point with infinite density. And infinite questions. Like, what even is that? Or take gravity waves. Ripples in the fabric of space-time, generated by colliding black holes billions of light years away. We've only recently learned how to detect them, using impossibly sensitive instruments that measure tiny distortions across the entire Earth. And yet, we can't predict them fully. We don't know all the rules. And while gravity rules the large-scale cosmos, it doesn't play well with the tiny stuff. Zoom into atoms, particles, quantum fields, and gravity disappears. The other forces of nature, electromagnetism, strong nuclear, weak nuclear, have neat equations. They obey quantum laws. But gravity? It's like the weird uncle who won't follow the party rules. Try to apply quantum mechanics to gravity, and your math explodes. Literally. Infinities everywhere. Which is scientist code for please stop before this gets embarrassing. This mismatch has haunted physicists for decades. It's the reason we don't yet have a theory of everything, a single framework that explains both the stars and the quarks. Gravity is the last holdout, the final boss. Some theories try to bridge the gap, like string theory, where particles are tiny vibrating strings, and gravity is just a note in the cosmic melody. Or loop quantum gravity, which suggests space itself is made of discrete loops. But none of these are proven. They're ideas, beautiful ones, desperate ones. Meanwhile, here on Earth, gravity just keeps doing its thing, making waterfalls, holding moons in orbit, causing toast to land butter side down. And here's something fun. Gravity also affects time. The closer you are to a massive object, the slower time moves for you. That's not science fiction. That's why astronauts age slightly less than we do. It's called gravitational time dilation. The taller you are, the faster your head experiences time compared to your feet. So technically, you've already time traveled just by sitting upright. Congratulations. You might be wondering, if gravity is so mysterious, why do we trust it to launch rockets, build skyscrapers, and keep satellites in orbit? Because we can measure it, predict it. We just can't explain its origin. It's like having a phone that works perfectly, but no idea how the battery stays charged. You keep using it. You just whisper thank you and hope it doesn't stop working mid-scroll. Now here's a bedtime image for you. Imagine lying in a hammock suspended between stars. The tension you feel, that gentle dip in the fabric of space, is gravity, but the threads are invisible, and the stars don't know you're there. And yet, something connects you, always. Maybe gravity isn't a thing, but a relationship between you and the universe. Maybe it's how the cosmos says, you belong here. So tonight, as you settle a little deeper into your bed, feel that gentle tug holding you close, not just to the Earth, but to every atom, every sun, every hidden galaxy drifting in the dark. You are cradled by a mystery, and even if science can't tell you why, it still keeps you grounded. The mirror of self. Once, long ago, In a world of ancient reflections and still water, a human stared at their own face and recognized it. That may not sound like much, but it's one of the strangest abilities in nature. Self-awareness. The fact that you know you're you. That there's an inner narrator quietly whispering, "That's my reflection. That's my thought. That's my burrito." And here's the scientific twist. No one knows where that self comes from, or what it is, or why it sticks around. Let's rewind a bit. Imagine a toddler seeing a mirror for the first time. At first, they might try to play with the other baby, but at some point, usually around 18 months, they realize, that's me. It's called the mirror test, and it's one of the few ways we know an animal, or a toddler, has a sense of self. But what's actually happening in that brain? It's not just a memory or an instinct. It's a meta-cognition, a thought about a thought. You not only have emotions, but you're aware that you're feeling them. You don't just exist, you know you exist. And as far as science can tell, that's bananas. Where does this inner self live? If we dissect the brain, we find all sorts of useful gear, memory centers, language processors, sensory inputs, but no I, no little pilot in your head flipping switches, just meat and electricity. In fact, most of what your brain does happens without you. Breathing, blinking, balancing, digesting, and even decision-making. Yep. There's plenty of evidence that your brain makes choices before you become aware of them. The conscious self is not the CEO. It's more like a very confident press secretary trying to explain decisions it didn't make. So what is the self? One idea is that self-awareness is a narrative illusion. That your brain builds a story moment by moment, stitching together memories, emotions, and sensations into a seamless sense of me. You're not a solid object. You're an ongoing process. A song, not a statue. Still, that doesn't explain why we evolved that ability. Other creatures survive just fine without self-reflection. Your dog isn't lying awake pondering its purpose. Your cat maybe, but only to judge you. And yet, humans spend enormous mental energy on identity. Who am I? What do I want? Am I the same person I was 10 years ago? Or did that version of me die with a different haircut? Here's a quirky experiment. Patients with a condition called anosognosia, often after a stroke, can become paralyzed, but insist they can still move. They'll cheerfully tell you they just waved, even though their arm hasn't budged. Why? Because their internal story of the self is so strong, it overrides physical reality. That's the thing. Your sense of self isn't just built from facts. It's a feeling, a belief, which makes it weirdly fragile. Think about dreams. In them, you often have a sense of self, but it's slippery. You might dream you're someone else, somewhere else, and it feels completely normal. Then you wake up, and suddenly, this is the real you. But what if that dream you also felt real, just in a different layer? Or meditation. Many traditions teach you to sit still, breathe, and notice your thoughts drifting by like clouds. And eventually, something odd happens. The sense of I softens. You become more like a witness. Some practitioners call this the no-self experience, where you're still conscious, but the ego seems to vanish. Spoiler, it's usually peaceful, and science can't explain it. One radical theory suggests the self is a social hallucination, a construct your brain developed so it could interact with others, like a mental name tag. Hi, I'm me. That would explain why so much of our identity is shaped by relationships, mirrors, and social feedback. But if the self is just a mask, what's underneath? Then there's split brain patients again. Remember them? When their left and right brain hemispheres are surgically separated, they sometimes behave like they have two selves. One hand buttons a shirt, the other unbuttons it. One side laughs, the other scowls. Each hemisphere holds its own preferences, perceptions, even desires. Two selves, one body. Still comfy? Now here's something else. Brain damage in certain regions can alter someone's personality entirely. They might lose empathy or fear, or even their moral compass. And yet, they still think of themselves as me. So what defines the self? Memory, morality, mood. If your sense of self can change, was it ever real to begin with? And yet, you're here, aware, listening, being. That's what makes this mystery so intimate. We're not just observing it, we are it. You can't step outside your own self to get a clearer look. The mirror is part of the reflection. But maybe that's the secret. Maybe the self isn't a fixed object to be found, but a shimmering ripple in consciousness. A verb, not a noun. You're not a self. You're selfing in real time. So breathe in. Notice the sensation. Notice that you're noticing. That loop, the awareness of awareness, is something no machine, no model, and no microscope has yet reproduced. You are the mystery, and somehow you know it. The placebo paradox. Relax your mind as we explore a pill that does nothing, and somehow still heals. The placebo effect is one of the strangest and most quietly powerful forces in medicine. Imagine this. You go to a doctor, they give you a sugar pill, and tell you it's the latest breakthrough. You take it, and then your pain eases, your symptoms lessen, your body responds. But here's the kicker. The pill was fake. No active ingredients, no molecular wizardry, just expectation. And science has absolutely no clear explanation for how or why that works. Let's rewind. The word placebo comes from Latin meaning I shall please. It was originally used to describe treatments meant more to comfort than cure. But then, something odd started happening. People began getting better. Not just feeling better, actually improving. Symptoms would shrink, pain would vanish, heart rates would drop. In some studies, placebos outperformed real drugs. Cue the head scratching. We now know the placebo effect isn't imaginary. It shows up in brain scans. When someone believes they're receiving real treatment, their brain releases endorphins, dopamine, even activates the body's internal painkillers. Think about that. Your belief triggers your biology. It's as if your brain goes, "Oh, we're being helped? Got it. Deploying the healing team." That's wild. But it gets wilder. Placebos don't just work for pain. They've shown effects in conditions like depression, Parkinson's, irritable bowel syndrome, even asthma. And here's the kicker. They still work even when people know they're placebos. These are called open-label placebos. The doctor literally tells you, this is a sugar pill, but it might help. And it often does. That shouldn't be possible. You'd think the magic would disappear once the trick is revealed. But no, the body still responds, which means the healing power may not come from deception. It may come from something deeper, something baked into your biology, something like hope. Hope, it turns out, is medicine. Let's go deeper. Say you're in a study. Half the people get a real antidepressant, half get a placebo. In trial after trial, the placebo group improves almost as much as the real one. Why? It's not because they're faking. Their brain chemistry actually changes. Serotonin levels shift. cortisol drops. The body begins to rewire itself, all because it believes. Some researchers call the placebo effect the expectation response. Your body expects healing, so it activates the systems associated with healing. Others describe it as classical conditioning, like Pavlov's dog salivating at the sound of a bell. But in this case, your mind hears the bell, and your body produces results it hasn't been chemically triggered to create. Placebos even have side effects. Yep, people report nausea, dizziness, headaches, all from fake pills. That's called the nocebo effect, and it's the dark twin of placebo. If you expect harm, you may feel it. The power of belief cuts both ways. There are even cultural effects. Studies have shown that red pills work better as stimulants. Blue ones make better sleep aids. Branded pills outperform generics, even when they're identical. Placebos administered by confident, smiling doctors work better than those given by cold, rushed ones. The context matters. The ritual matters, which raises a spooky question. How much of medicine is science and how much is theatre? To be clear, real medicine works. Antibiotics kill bacteria. Anesthetics knock you out. But the placebo effect is like a layer of frosting on top, a mysterious bonus system that activates whenever we believe we're being cared for. And that's what really lingers, the idea that care itself is therapeutic, that being seen, heard, touched, treated, even with a fake, can unlock something in your biology that no test tube ever has. Placebos have even been tested in surgery. In one famous study, patients with knee pain were divided into two groups. One got real arthroscopic surgery. The other had a fake procedure. Incision, motion, no actual repair. Guess what? Both groups improved equally. That's either terrifying or amazing, depending on how you feel about scalpels. And yet, we still don't know why this works. Not fully. Some say it's evolution. Maybe your brain evolved to use internal systems when external help appears. Others say it's quantum-level brain fuzziness. Others just shrug and go, honestly, no idea. But one thing is clear. The line between mind and body is blurrier than we ever imagined. Your thoughts aren't just passengers. They're part of the machinery. And sometimes, a gentle belief can trigger the same systems as a powerful drug. So as you rest here, quiet and still, know this: your body is listening. To stories, to signals, to the soft hum of possibility. The placebo effect isn't just a medical glitch. It's a hidden doorway into how deeply the mind can shape the body. And maybe, just maybe, the next time you feel a little better, it's not the pill, it's you. The first spark of life. Close your eyes, and let's drift back to a world without you, without me, without anyone, before DNA, before lungs, before laughter and language and leftovers in the fridge. There was a planet, warm, wet, and wildly chaotic. Lightning struck oceans, volcanoes bubbled, comets rained down with strange chemicals. And in the middle of all that, something happened. Life. Not complex life. Not giraffes or mushrooms or reality TV contestants. Just the simplest flicker of it. A self-replicating molecule. A chemical hiccup that, for some unknowable reason, didn't just fall apart. It copied itself. That was the first breath. And science still has no idea how it happened. Let's get this straight. We've mapped genomes, cloned sheep, printed organs in 3D. But ask any biologist how life started. Not how it evolved, but how it sparked. And you'll get a shrug wrapped in a lab coat. We call it abiogenesis. The the process by which life arises from non-living matter. It sounds official, but it's really just a placeholder for somehow it happened. Here's the riddle. Life is complicated. Even the simplest known cell is a miniature metropolis. It has walls, gates, highways, power plants, security systems, and information storage. DNA, RNA, proteins, lipids, all coordinated, all communicating. It's not like you can throw some soup at a rock and get a mitochondrion. And yet, here you are. So how? One idea is that life began in the oceans, specifically near hydrothermal vents at the bottom of the sea. These vents spew hot, mineral-rich water into the deep, dark abyss. It's a soup of sulfur, metals, and energy. Some scientists think these environments could have catalyzed simple chemical reactions, eventually creating molecules that could copy themselves. Others argue for tidal pools, places where water evaporates in cycles, concentrating molecules into sticky puddles. Add sunlight, add time, and maybe you get primitive RNA. Maybe. There's even a theory that life didn't start here at all, that it arrived on a comet or meteor, hitching a ride across space. It's called panspermia, and while it sounds like something you'd find on expired yogurt, it's a real hypothesis. But it only kicks the mystery down the cosmic hallway, because wherever it came from, it still had to start somewhere. Let's zoom in. To build life, you need molecules that can store information, like RNA, molecules that can do things, like enzymes, and a container, like a cell membrane. The odds of all three appearing in one place, in just the right configuration, is so astronomically low, it makes winning the lottery look like finding sand at the beach. But somehow it happened. Somehow, non-living chemicals became self-organizing, self-sustaining, self-replicating. They crossed an invisible line between chaos and coordination. And once that happened, even just once, it was game on. Evolution took the wheel. Mistakes led to improvements. Molecules became cells. Cells formed colonies. Colonies built coral reefs and poets and spreadsheets. But that first step, that spark, we've recreated pieces of it in labs. We've built synthetic RNA strands, even primitive membranes. But we've never made life from scratch, not without already living parts. It's like trying to build a candle flame without fire. You can hold the wax, the wick, the match. But the flame, that's the part we're still missing. There's a beautiful irony here. You're made of atoms that don't care. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. These elements don't want anything. They follow physics, not dreams. And yet, somehow they formed you. Someone who thinks, who laughs, who cries during Pixar movies. You are stardust with opinions. And that leap, from chemistry to consciousness, begins with the smallest, most stubborn flicker of life. A molecule that said, let's keep going. Science continues to search. Maybe one day we'll find that missing link. Maybe we'll recreate it and watch non-life become life under a microscope. But even then, it won't explain why it happened. Only how. And maybe that's okay. Maybe the origin of life isn't just a chemical equation. It's a story. One written in molecules, passed down in breath and blood, whispered in every heartbeat. You're the latest sentence in that story. Still being written. Still humming with mystery. And tonight, as you float on the edge of sleep, remember, you are not a mistake. You are not a fluke. You are the result of 4 billion years of something choosing to continue. Whatever that something was, it still glows inside you. why the universe exists at all. Turn down the lights and let me tell you about the ultimate question. The one that even the most brilliant minds still whisper about like it's sacred. Why is there something instead of nothing? Seriously, why? Why stars? Why atoms? Why math or matter or mint chocolate chip ice cream? Why you? You might think that's a philosophical question, but it's also a scientific one. Because all of physics, all of cosmology, all of existence rests on a mystery so fundamental that we barely know how to frame it. Let's break it down. Picture nothing. No stars, no space, no time. Not empty space, but no space. Not silence, but the absence of sound itself. No up or down, no laws, no particles, no potential. Just a blank so blank it's not even a color, not even a thought. Now blink, and there's a universe exploding into existence, full of energy, light, particles, gravity, cats, taxes, existential dread, and pasta. That leap from nothing to everything is the greatest unsolved question science has ever faced. Because all our theories, no matter how deep, begin with something. Even the Big Bang theory starts with a tiny, dense point of infinite energy and zero volume. Where did that come from? Some physicists think maybe nothing is unstable. That quantum fluctuations can give birth to particles like bubbles popping in a vacuum. In this view, empty space isn't truly empty. It seethes with energy. And maybe, just maybe, a random fluctuation was big enough to spark a whole universe. Cool. But where did that space come from? What existed before the fluctuations? What governed the rules? Why those laws and not others? Others suggest that maybe nothing is a nonsense word, that non-existence can't exist, that the universe didn't come from something. It just is, eternal, self-existing, like a cosmic shrug in every direction. But that doesn't satisfy the itch, does it? Because deep down, you feel the question tugging. Why this? Why a universe where hydrogen fuses into helium? Why laws that allow stars to form, and brains to evolve, and socks to vanish from dryers? The odds are absurdly low. Adjust the strength of gravity by a hair, and stars don't form. Nudge the electromagnetic force, and atoms fall apart. Our universe is finely tuned, balanced, poised like a ballerina on a string of probability. If it were a little different, we wouldn't be here to ask why. Some call this the anthropic principle, the idea that the universe has to look this way, because if it didn't, we wouldn't be around to notice. Kind of like saying the reason your socks fit is because you're wearing your own socks. Technically true, not emotionally satisfying. Then there's the multiverse theory. Maybe our universe is just one bubble in a sea of infinite others, each one with different laws, most lifeless. A few, like ours, just right. We're not special, we're just lucky. But if other universes exist, they're beyond our reach. We can't see them, can't test them. It's like trying to prove there's a ghost in your neighbor's Wi-Fi. So again, why this? Why not just nothing? Some thinkers turn to mathematics. They argue that perhaps existence is inevitable, that reality is a mathematical structure, and it must exist in all possible forms. We're simply one version being expressed, which raises the question, does 2 plus 2 exist, even if nothing else does? Others go even further. Maybe the universe had to exist. That nothing is unstable, incomplete, or somehow forbidden. That existence is more natural than absence. But that feels like we're playing word games with the biggest question in history. Now breathe. You're not expected to solve this. No one has. Not Einstein, not Hawking. Not the theorists still scribbling equations on chalkboards at 3 a.m. while drinking lukewarm coffee and whispering, just one more variable. But this question matters, because it reminds us how strange and precious it all is. You didn't ask to exist. And yet, here you are, bones and thoughts and heartbeat, floating on a blue rock in a silent expanse. You've watched sunsets, tasted strawberries, heard songs that broke your heart and healed it in the same verse. You've loved, you've wondered, you've stayed up too late listening to bedtime videos about physics. And all of that, all of you, sprang from something, or nothing, or maybe a question that has no answer. So tonight, as you close your eyes and let yourself drift into whatever dreams may come, remember, you are the question. You are the answer. You are the evidence that something exists. And that's already more than nothing. Now let your breath slow down a little more with each exhale. You've just wandered through 10 of science's greatest riddles. Questions older than memory, deeper than equations, softer than sleep. You don't need to solve them. You don't need to understand. Just let the mystery surround you, like a warm tide pulling you gently inward. Let the not knowing be a kind of peace. A quiet hug from the universe itself. You're safe here, in the space between answers. Let go of the questions. Let go of the need. And float softly into rest. Sweet dreams.